Joining us now is retired FBI agent and attorney Bobby Chacon. Bobby, how will, the president also said that he's mobilizing the National Guard to facilitate basically taking on crime here in Washington, D.C. They will be working with the Metro Police Department. How exactly will they interact, and what can we expect out of the National Guard?
That's a great question, and it's really the crucial question, Kelly. This is the devil's in the details with this kind of stuff. So exactly what will the National Guard be doing? So you have to look at what the National Guard does now and what it's trained to do, and then you kind of can merge that into the police functions of D.C. and what the D.C. police are doing. When I heard that, over 100 FBI agents were being deployed, I had some concerns about what they would exactly be doing, because we don't do what the basic police patrol respond to, say, domestic violence or a robbery or burglary calls, things like that. We have SWAT teams and we do gang investigations and things. But for the majority of what we think a police officer's work does, we don't do, and the National Guard doesn't do. So what you hope they do is they backfill roles that the police are doing that they're also trained to do: crowd control, building protection, things like that, things that we've already seen the National Guard called in to do. We've seen it here in Los Angeles recently. And so they do that, and that relieves the police from doing those functions, and then those police officers can then be deployed better in the neighborhoods where it's needed. So they're kind of a backfill, and then the police officers that are doing those jobs that the National Guard or the FBI are now doing, then they can slide up into the patrol work that really addresses the quality of life crimes that affect people's lives on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that was one of my first thoughts, is how is an FBI agent going to operate as a police officer? Because they both have such specialized training. Having said that, I've never been trained as either. So in my mind, I kind of wonder, well, wait a minute, how are they different? Could you give a few seconds on what a police officer is trained to do and an FBI agent is not, and vice versa? Sure.
So we have several parallel functions like SWAT, investigations. We're more like detectives. But when you think of a patrol police officer, a uniformed patrol police officer in a marked unit going out to a domestic violence call or a bar fight, those are things that we're not trained to intervene in. We don't know the laws with respect to those things. We don't have training with respect to those things. And so, those are the quality of life calls that a lot of police officers handle over and over and over again. And those are the quality of life crimes that are kind of taking over these cities: the muggings, the rapes, the robberies, the burglaries, all of these things that are affecting quality of life. Those are the things that the FBI is trained to do. We do long-term investigations. We do gang investigations. So we're not trained to do that. The police, a regular cop on the street, they have to become a detective and get trained to do that. But that's what we do. We do more of what a detective would do, not what a line police officer, patrol police officer would do. We're not trained to do that. And I have concerns when FBI agents are pressed into doing things like that. We saw that in 2020 when the BLM people were burning down cities and causing billions in damage and deaths. FBI agents were out in the street trying to do duties, crowd control, and duties that they're not really trained to do. And it didn't turn out well for some of those FBI agents. And so I think that as long as they're pressed into service to do things that they're already trained to do, that's fine. And they can relieve those police officers who then can go and do the stuff that they were previously trained to do is okay. But we can't be riding around in a patrol car responding to the normal type of calls that normal police officers do on patrol every day. That's not what we're trained to do.
Bobby, one of D.C.'s problems is during the 2020 period to 2023, basically there was the defund police movement, and D.C. City Council stripped $15 million from the police department because of those calls to defund the police. But what we've also seen is a lot of police officers took early retirement or they left the force. And right now, I think there's a little over 3,000 Metropolitan Police on the streets. But Mayor Bowser wants that number to be 400. So she's about 900 short. How do we encourage men and women to join the police force? Because there are shortages not only in D.C., but in a lot of these very liberal cities where the work just you don't get a thank you for the work. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, the important point there is always a lag time. So when the defund the police movement had its effect and all those experienced officers, like you said, left, it takes a long time to kind of get that back, to train somebody up. But you have to encourage them first. You have to increase their pay. But moreover, you have to respect them. And in a lot of those places, the defund the police movement was more about disrespecting police, making them the bad guys, making them the enemy. And every police officer that was going out on patrol in those cities that you mentioned, they felt disrespected. They felt like the community was against them. They turned the community against them. Those politicians turned the community against the police. And so the police kind of gave up. They either retired, they left for other departments that were, in a more friendly area. And so you have to, we always talk about, we have to rebuild the public's trust in the police. Well, guess what? You also have to rebuild the public's respect for the police. And that's will draw people in. If I don't want, nobody wants to go into a profession that they're going to feel disrespected for, who wants that? And so you have to build the respect back for police. And that's going to take the politicians changing the rhetoric. And that takes time. And unfortunately, the damage was done, and it's going to take some time to recover. But you have to start showing respect for police. The public has to trust them and respect them. And that comes from a change in the rhetoric. The people that were defunding the police, it's not enough for them to stop saying that. They have to now come out and affirmatively support the police and affirmatively rebuild the public's respect for the police.
All right, Bobby Chacon, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.